Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, a little bit special. We're going to hop in our time machine and we're going to go back to the year 1997, the peak of the golden age, in my opinion, of hip-hop. Today, ladies and gentlemen, on the 20th anniversary of the 1997 album, The Art of War by Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, we're going to do a little bit of a review and retrospective on the album. So stick around. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back for another exciting review, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. It might be on the little longer side, so please bear with me and stick it through to the end. But I want to get this out of the way. I want you to go ahead and hit that like button for me. It means a lot, and it gives me the encouragement and motivation to keep on doing this type of video. And also, if you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe so you can be informed of more videos like this that are going to be following. So thank you. Alright, so as I mentioned, today we're going to be looking at, on the 20th anniversary of the release of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, The Art of War, we're going to just kind of go over this album, give it a review, see if it still holds up today, by today's standards, and just talk a little bit about the backstory of the album and what's going on. So, the year was 1997. I, your boy Smoothie, was just graduating high school, had just graduated high school the previous June, and that July, that hot July morning, I remember standing outside of Best Buy, despite the wall, lifetime guarantee sticker, replacement case, standing outside, waiting to pick up my copy of the highly anticipated follow-up album to the classic East 1999 Eternal album, The Art of War. Now, way back in the day, before digital music was a thing, before cell phones, before all that nonsense, there were no perks, there were no bonus tracks for digital download versus CD purchase, but you did get some perks. I remember the big perk for this, the reason why, if I'm recalling correctly, I stood in line to get my copy, and I wasn't alone, there were others, was they were for the first however many shoppers, buyers, you could pick up a prepaid 10-minute or 15-minute Bone Thugs-n-Harmony calling card, because that's how you made long-distance calls back in the day before cell phones. It had the image on it from the single Look in My Eyes that was released in conjunction with the movie Batman and Robin, which was part of the reason that I believe that this album went ahead and sold real well, because all the exposure that song had garnered for this album. But aside from that, let's take a step back a little bit. Bone Thugs-n-Harmony at this point in their career were riding high off the success of the remix to the song Crossroads that was on the East 1999 Eternal album. And the remix, The Crossroads, was a huge success, both in the hip-hop community and mainstream alike. Heck, today you can still even hear different people referencing it in TV shows and movies. Probably what really propelled the Bone Thugs-n-Harmony brand and who they are today into the spotlight. So, East 1999 was a great album. That song was a great album, breaking chart records, as I said. So, it was with that high anticipation that they released The Art of War. Now, the title is taken from that of a book by Sun Tzu, a military strategist back in the day. A lot of military strategists used it. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on Sun Tzu, but the premise of that book, it was all based on strategy, you know, being effective in military without combat, using strategy to, you know, deceive or, you know, plotting against your enemies, whatever the case may be. So they borrowed that theme for this album, and it's very noticed throughout the course of both the CDs. This is a double album, again following on the heels of Tupac, who had released the first hip-hop solo double CD. Wu-Tang Clan did it with Wu-Tang Forever, and Bone figured they'd jump on that train and give to their fans. CD full of 26 good tracks. There's really not one I can say on here that is a bad track. Now, at this time, again, they were big into the belief that the world was going to end in 1999, 2000, and in an interview with the Box Music Television, it's no longer a thing. If you're not familiar with that, real quick history on that, you could pretty much call in for like $1.99, request a video, and they play it. So it was like on-demand videos, but you paid like $2. And in an interview, they had stated that, you know, you're going to be seeing them dressed in a lot of fatigues and military-style attire in preparation for these last days. Whether or not they believed that it was physically going to end and be the end of Earth, or just things were going to change, which kind of they did change. But they were, you know, gearing up and preparing for this war that they felt was coming. So that explains also part of the theming of this album. As you can see here on the cover, you have all 4 members. I do apologize for the glare. All dressed in what looks almost like samurai type outfits. Again, a nod to the title. But prior to the release of this album, the Source magazine released 4 limited edition covers featuring each of the members dressed in military fatigues with a little story on it. I'm hoping that I can have them in this video about this point so you can see the different covers. And not only that, there were other issues of the Source in different magazines where you saw them dressed up in their fatigues and whatnot. So it's a little bit of the backstory on the theming and the concept of the album, where they were at this stage of their career. So now let's just talk about this album a little bit. I asked the question in the beginning, does this album still hold up today? Yes, it most certainly does. Anybody who is a Bone fan, of course, is going to enjoy this album thoroughly. But it speaks to a time in hip-hop where there was a lot of tension between coast, east and west. You had Biggie, you had Tupac, and this particular album dealt a lot with the style that Bone Thugs brought to the table. A lot of artists were coming out of the woodworks claiming that they stole their style, that they were unoriginal. Some of those artists are Twista, Do or Die, Crucial Conflict, 3 6 Mafia, and it's very reflective in the tracks here, talking a lot about being clones, you know, stealing their style, or how could they steal their style when they never been to their town. So it's pretty much World War I. The first disc is pretty much a sediment to that, and that theme flows throughout into World War II as well. But before we go any further, we're talking about the tracks. Let's actually just look at the packaging of the CD. So as I said, you have right there on the cover all 4 members. Forgive me if this doesn't show out well in the video. You have a booklet, which a lot of CDs nowadays do not have one, so there it is, a better picture without the glare. And as you flip through this, you get a group shot. And then each page throughout, you got Lazy, Crazy, and then in the middle of the book, you got like an artillery shot, you know, the tools of war. And then you got Busy, and you got Wish. And then just some other cool artwork. Standard stuff about upcoming releases from Ruthless. Put that here for a second. The discs are pretty simple. You got World War I there, and World War II with that sick artwork in the back of this skeleton surrounded by flames. And then on the back as well with the track list. Get up close and personal there, but you got those skeletons, which is representative of each of the members with some weaponry there. Pretty cool, pretty dope artwork for the time. But on to the tracks. So we have on World War I, I'll just read out the tracks real quick. I'm not going to do a track by track breakdown, but World War I, you have Retaliation, Handle the Vibe, Look Into My Eyes, Body Rot, It's All Mo Thug, Ready for War, Ain't Nothing Changed, Clog Up Your Mind, It's All Real, Hard Times, Mind of a Soldier, If I Could Teach the World, and Family Tree. World War II, you got Mo Thug, Thug Love, Hatin' Nation, Seven Sign, Wasteland Warriors, Neighborhood Slang, You Ain't Bone, Get Your Thug On, All Original, Blaze It, Let the Law End, Whom Die They Lie, Friends, Evil Paradise, and Mo Thug's Family Tree. So as you can see, just by the track list, something that I picked up on and probably known earlier on, but it just really hit me recently. The first disc you have, and as you can tell by all the artwork, you may be noticing the absence of Flesh and Bone, who is a member of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. But early on in the career, starting with Faces of Death, it was always Crazy, Lazy, Busy, Wish, and Flesh. They were the core for, I said Flesh, just Crazy, Lazy, Busy, and Wish. They were the core for. Flesh is Lazy Bone's older brother, so he had involvement early on, but wasn't one of the core four that set out to go seek out Eazy-e and seek out, their future career. And he doesn't appear on all but one track on World War I, and that track is It's All Mo Thug. Now the reason for this is in the October of the previous year, 1996, Crazy and Lazy Bone released an album with their new record label, Mo Thug Records, called Mo Thug Family Chapter 1 Family Scriptures. And that was a showcase of all their artists, local artists that they've come up with that they were trying to put on. And Flesh and Bone was one of those flagship artists on Mo Thug imprint. And it's only suiting that he was on the track It's All Mo Thug. But other than that, all the other tracks, just the four of them. You hear more from Flesh on the second disc, which is geared more towards Mo Thug out there as both a label and the artist, getting them more radio play, if you will. So the intro to the thing is Mo Thug, and it ends with Mo Thug Family Tree right here. All the members of the Mo Thug roster at that time singing along as well. So you hear Flesh more on there, so it was kind of like the second disc was showcasing. And if you kind of put them together, if you look at World War I as more of the strategy behind defeating these so-called clones and doubters as, being the first part, and they're using the strategy of their tongue and their music to deliver their message that, look, we're here, this is our style, we didn't steal anything, we're all original. Versus World War II, where it's the second part of the world takeover, if you will, the domination and the final victory of getting their crew and their other artists out there to the world as well, kind of forming a monopoly. So I thought that was pretty ingenious. I'm not sure if, I'm assuming that's how it was laid out. Can't say that I've researched that or whatnot, but that's just the way I interpret it, and I think it was a pretty good and fair assumption. So some of the standout tracks on World War I we'll talk about real quick. You got Look Into My Eyes, of course. That was the song that was the single on the Batman and Robin soundtrack. Now Crazy had a different verse on the single version as opposed to the version on the retail release, which on the retail release it deals more with the clone style mentality and the originality of the flow. As a matter of fact, the video is reflective. It had really nothing to do with Batman or Robin. You see a guy changing faces, putting on the different members of Bone's face. So saying that, everybody want to be Bone, but they're not Bone. Body Rot, again, another good song. It deals with the haters and the police and the crookedness of that whole thing. Been around early on and it still continues today, obviously. Ready for War, another track going at, and this track specifically Crucial Conflict, and that features Majesty. Majesty is not a member of Mo Thugs, but he will later on be part of Busy's imprint, Seven Sign Records. Ain't Nothing Changed, Clog Up Your Mind, good songs. It's All Real, that's a solo song by Crazy. And real quick before I get into the rest of these tracks here, Another cool part about this is this album also set the stage for the releases of solo albums by each of the members. Now Flesh had already released at this point his album, again because he's on Mo Thug, so completely separate from the group, but it showcased that they could not only cohesively work together so well, but they could stand on their own solo. And Crazy starts with Is All Real. Mind of a Soldier was Lazy's song. Seventh Sign was of course Busy's, and Get Your Thug On was Wishes. Now after this released, I believe the first member of Bone to release an album following this was Busy, and then Crazy preceded, and Lazy was after that. Still have yet to hear a solo from Wish, but he definitely could stand on his own as a solo artist, and many of the other artists have gone on to have, you know, successful solo stints as well and solo albums. Busy being one of the ones who has many releases due to the fact of his on and off again relationship with the group, which at this point in 2017 is pretty solid that he's back, but that's not the point of this video. We're gonna bring it back to the tracks here. So It's All Real, that's one of my favorite songs. Hard Times, which is just an interlude, but it's a very hard-hitting interlude. And then of course, If I Could Teach the World, kind of playing on the Crossroads thing with despite the, you know, it's a feel-good song, a more peaceful song, if you will, and kind of playing on the fact that there is this beef and this tension, because at this point, Tupac and Biggie were already gone, already lost, and already deceased by the time this album was released. And it's like, they want to say if they could teach the world to be a thug and harmony, it doesn't have to be all violence all the time, all the gunplay. There can be peace. And they find their peace, of course, in God, as they say here, and through marijuana. If we move on to disc 2, now this was one disc that I didn't listen to as much coming up. I always mainly focused on World War I, but I've listened to it through a number of times. Thug Love, of course, with Tupac, great track, probably one of his last tracks recorded when he was alive, in terms of intended for this, not just verses that he recorded and that were pieced together later on. Interesting fact with that song, it was initially recorded with Busy, Silky Fine, and Tupac, and it was worked out, I believe, by Tamika Wright to include Bone as well and drop Silky Fine from the final track. Neighborhood Slang, again, it's another instrumental or interlude. It's a short song, but it's all crazy. Great interlude. It's just a great flow, great content on it. All original, again, speaking to the originality of their flows. Blaze It, another interlude. My thoughts are it was to be the interlude to POD, which was later released on the collection Volume 1, which was dropped from this album. In the source article with the covers, they mentioned POD, but it was never made it to the final release of the album. Let the Law End, again, dealing with the tensions that come from being a black man, if you will, in this time, or just coming from the streets and dealing with what they have to deal with the law. Friends, it's a good song. Kind of, if you look at the review I did on the Bone Thugs album, the Crazy and Busy album, where I said they talk a lot about friends and people that are no longer friends, the same thing, the backstabbing that happens, and I guess that could be proof throughout the whole industry that people you think are your friends aren't. Evil Paradise, you know, kind of what reflecting that end of the world sentiment that the world's evil and it's coming to a head at this time, and that's what they felt. And then Mo Thug Family Tree, finally closing it out with the track showcasing all the Mo Thug artists at the time and Bone as well. So overall, again, I'll say it, this album certainly holds up 20 years later, and I can't believe that it has been 20 years since this album came out. Can't believe I'm getting that old. So it's a good album. Since this time, obviously they've gone on to have some not as much huge success as they once had, due to the fact of the industry changing. I think a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with post 9/11, when all that happened. it seems like hip-hop music in general changed. Now you have a lot of artists out there that, in my opinion, don't really put a lot of thought or time into their lyrics and can just get by with a catchy beat and doing whatever on the song. Also, since that time, they've squashed all the beefs. There's no more tension between any of the members of any different groups. They've toured with Crucial Conflict and Do or Die. They've done albums with members from those respective groups and been featured on different things with those artists from 3 6 Mafia and Twista. So all in all, it's definitely a solid album. 20 years later, it's still as fresh as the day I picked it up. If you're a Bone fan, if you're a newer Bone fan and haven't listened to this one yet and are only familiar with their more recent stuff, I encourage you to go out. It's on Spotify, it's on all the streaming services. Give it a listen and let me know what you think. To me, this and East 1999, they are my 2 favorite Bone albums of all time. Of course, I'll support Bone, whatever they do, but it seems like this was their most focused, and they were still hungry at this point. And not saying they're not still hungry now, but they were just out for blood on these albums. So, Art of War, 20 years later, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this album, your favorite tracks on it, maybe you're new to it, maybe you haven't listened to it yet. Hopefully you go listen to it like I said, and we can talk about it, we can have a dialogue below. I'm really enjoying doing these review type videos, and especially these more showcasing of the CD. Let me know what you think about those as well. I will continue to do them. And stay tuned for, I don't know what I got in the pipeline next, but depending on the success of this, maybe I'll dig deeper into some of their other albums as well. Maybe East 1999 Eternal, maybe their underground CD Faces of Death. Let me know in the comments below if there's one you want me to talk about, review. But that's going to do it for now. I'm starting to lose my voice. I want to thank you for tuning in as always, and remember, if you're new here, please subscribe. This is what I'm going to become with in the future. Not only CD reviews, but movie reviews. I do vlog. Used to be daily, now on occasion. Unboxing videos, what have you. And please do not forget to thumbs up this video. It does mean a lot when I see that thumbs up thing. It gives me the motivation and drive to continue doing this. Something I love. So thank you for tuning in. I want you to have a great day. Take care. God bless. And until the next review.